with that, I'm going to hand it over to you and take it away.
Excellent. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for taking time off on your Friday to be here with us. I'm really excited to teach this webinar to you today because it's about something very important for us coming up into 2019 and 2020, which is setting yourself apart from other causes and earned income. So having unrestricted sources of money to do with whatever you please. That's the goal of this presentation today. And so I am really excited to hopefully help you do that. So here's a bit more about me. I'm the author of The Wild Woman's Guide to Fundraising. I have also got 10 plus CFRE accredited e-courses on fundraising. I'm the creator of a fundraising blog with 50,000 monthly readers. I am also a nonprofit founder, and I've served in progressively more responsible fundraising roles as well as board roles. So I love to help you take your nonprofit to the next level. And if you want to apply for a free call with me, that's something I'm offering to everybody on this webinar today. If you go to bit.ly/mtfree30, and I'll put that in the chat for everybody as well. I'm very happy to give you a chance to chat with me more about what you're working on. And I don't have time to talk to everybody, but certainly if you apply, I will consider you. So anyway, thanks so much for being here, and let's keep going. So here's what we're going to learn today. We're going to talk about the latest giving trends. What is next level fundraising? We're going to look at some case studies of small nonprofits and medium-sized nonprofits, as well as look at SWOTs, cut out what's not working, how to determine your needs, and then we'll also look at what makes it unique, how to try and refine things, hurdles to implementing for you, creating systems, and then common misunderstandings about next level fundraising. So hopefully this will cover all of your questions about it. And if not, again, I just gave you a way to contact me. So here's our first poll question. What are your challenges right now? So I'm going to open and launch the poll. Here are some things I want you to start thinking about. What is our challenge? Is it fewer donors? Is it less grants? Is it less events money, or something else? And if you say something else, feel free to put it in the questions pane what your something else is. I'm seeing a lot of fewer donors here, and you are not alone in that, for sure. There's a lot more competition now, and we'll be talking about that in just a second. All right, only 66% of us have voted, so I'm going to keep it open for another 5 seconds. This is your last chance to have your say in this poll. All right, we're going to close the poll and share the results. So it looks like we have 50% of us said fewer donors. We'll talk about how to get more of those today for sure. 15% said less grants. Today we'll talk about why you should not depend on grants. 8% said less event money, so it sounds like that's pretty not a problem as much for people. And then 28% of us said something else. And for those of you who said something else, I'm looking in the questions pane right now, and kind of all the above said Sarah. Yeah, fewer major donors said Kate. Very, very good to know. Sarah said limited resources for growth, and then reaching higher net wealth donors, said Marilyn. Competition, said Gary. Yeah, definitely. So thank you everybody for sharing that. People who raised your hand, unfortunately, we can't let you talk out loud, but thank you so much. If you want to add your question to the questions pane, feel free. So this is why you're having these problems, because the U.S. charitable deduction is changing. That means some tax write-off donors are no longer donating or donating far less. And then also fewer people of modest means are giving. On top of that, we're seeing a proliferation of over 1,200 crowdfunding sites, okay? 1,200 crowdfunding sites. That is a lot of crowdfunding sites. So people are being asked all the time, constantly, to fund things. So people are using our language, and suddenly it's way more urgent to give to somebody on GoFundMe who needs a new kidney than it is to give to your programs. So of course it's understandable, and we don't want to take away people's new kidneys. We also want to see how can we compete with this increasing glut of fundraisers in the market. So we also have Mother Jones, which is a nonprofit, competing for funding, right? So we have people in the field that we didn't have before. We also have the New York Times getting grant money, even though they are a for-profit. So we not only have people in our sector just asking for more, we having independent journalism, we also have non-independent journalism asking and getting the money that we're supposed to get. So all of these things mean there's just, if you say you have fewer donors, this is partially why, not just because maybe you could do a better job of communicating or creating relationships, but also because this is the macroeconomic factors that are in your way. We also see that although we sent greater, this is a list of people's different cause areas here and how many people send emails in each area from Blackbaud. And so we see that we're all sending more emails, pretty much 12% more on average across all nonprofit industries. But the open rate has gone down 4% and the click rate has gone down 15%. So again, the reason that you're seeing this is because we have so much more competition. So whether you're in faith-based nonprofits, a food bank, higher ed, hospital, foundation, public affairs, or arts and culture, we're seeing it go down almost across the board. So know that we have to get more clever than ever about how to do our fundraising. So Gary, that's a good question. Crowdfunding for unrestricted funds, you can do that, Gary. You absolutely can. And but we're not going to talk about crowdfunding today. I'm only going to tell you that this is why your fundraising is, in fact, harder. So the bottom line is we're sending more emails with few results. You know, the charitable deduction is going away. It's changing. And we have lots more competition. So we need to do something different. But what, right? So normal fundraising, you're competing in an increasingly crowded market. The water is red with blood. So if like you're in a water with lots of sharks, but in next level fundraising, you float above in this clear blue water and you think long-term, you engage in strategic fundraising. You might have diversified fundraising strategies, but you'll have more effective fundraising. So how does that look? So if you're floating in a blue ocean with no one else competing with you, you're differentiating yourself, providing higher donor value at a lower cost. You often find new donors, people who are non-givers. So how does that look? So here's an example from a for-profit company, Yellowtail. I bet you've all seen Yellowtail. Several years ago, they had like big bus ads in New York City, giant billboards. They came in out of nowhere. And so what happened? There was this very snooty, highfalutin California wine industry with like hundreds of dollars a bottle of wine. And everybody's saying, and I can smell, you know, the wood in this, and there's a cherry note, and there's all these mouthfeels and all these things. And so for a lot of people, that was just sort of like an experience they didn't want or didn't need. And so Yellowtail saw that there were these people who were drinking beer and drinking cocktails who wanted a more simple way to enjoy wine. And so they came in, they put on yellow pith helmets, they pretended they were Australian outback people, and they kind of came into all these different wine stores in the US and started doing demos of their wine, which is simple and fruity. And they created wine drinkers out of non-wine drinkers. They took people who drank beer and cocktails and turned them into wine drinkers. And they said, hey, you want a bottle of wine for $10 or $7? You can have it. And they were suddenly like, yeah, sure. Like, this tastes good. I like it. And then all of the other people in this very old established market had never thought of doing that and didn't actually want that market. And these people did want it. And so when you think about how to create new donors out of non-donors, this is something to think about. Like, what do people want for an experience? What do they want, you know, as a volunteer? What do they want as a donor? What do they want as an event? And how can we offer that to them? Here's another example, Ringling Brothers versus Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil came along long after Ringling Brothers, which was over 100 years old. But unfortunately, they had a reputation for abusing animals, like elephants, for example. And so because they did that, there are a lot of people who are protesting at the circus and saying, we don't want this. And they, you know, you can understand that. You know, I don't think animals should be abused either. So what Cirque du Soleil did is they also saw that there were a lot of people who were acrobats who had trained for the Olympics their whole lives, and then they had nothing to do after the Olympics. And so they said, what if we could take people who were out of work and turn them into human animals? And so that is what they did. And so they created a wonderful place for people to perform. They turned people who would never have gone to the circus into circus goers by making it more like theater, having one place to focus your attention instead of 3 different places. So they improved a lot of aspects of the circus experience, and they made sure that no animals are being harmed. Hopefully no people are harmed, though. So of course they have accidents and things like that. But in general, they allow people to enjoy this experience and make something totally different than opera or theater and have a physical experience that is just quite beautiful. So they made a whole new market out of that. And so again, they asked themselves, what's the experience people long for? And what are people doing to try to change that and make it better? And for the circus, unfortunately, they never really changed the experience in a significant way, and so they became obsolete. So I don't want you to be obsolete. So how can we make sure that you're not? So let's ask another poll question here. Have you ever tried getting earned income? Okay, looks like we actually have a bunch of other answers here. Don't answer those underneath, have you ever made a SWOT? So just put yes or no, have you ever tried getting earned income? And earned income can mean everything from t-shirts to selling sponsorships or marketing for your nonprofit. It can mean that you have like an earned income stream of services or products, a cafe or a thrift store, things like that. All right, we are going to close the poll. And so the results are 52% of us said no, and 44% said yes, which is really good to know. All right, so in this case, the reason why I asked this is because the next two examples we're going to look at are nonprofits trying earned income streams to really help set them apart and get themselves earned income that is totally unrestricted, and you can do whatever you want with it, and you can also build up your cash reserves. So here's the problem that Dallas County Meals on Wheels had. Their waiting list is 4 years. We need to expand by 78% to 6,700 meals delivered per day, but how? I mean, for some people who are homebound, 4 years, they're going to be dead. They're just not, it's not soon enough. And so I actually have a great aunt who is getting served by Meals on Wheels right now in rural New York, and she is almost 90, and Meals on Wheels saves her life. So this is a very near and dear cause to me. And so they said that there was a waiting list and she couldn't get on it either. My mother called and advocated until finally she got on, and now she gets meals, 5 days a week, and she has TV dinners for the rest. So it's really, really good for her, and they really take a lot of what she wants into account. So what Dallas County Meals on Wheels did is they said we need to find our champions, because not everybody can have an ally like my mom to keep advocating for them to get a meal. So their goal was to raise $17 million. They've raised $6 million so far. They have raised $1 million for food from a leadership donor. They've raised $1.5 million for technology from that same leadership donor. And this person had delivered meals. They're a former board member and had been their supporter for 34 years. So things that you can take from this is, getting the right people on your board is critical. And I know everybody knows this. That's super message from Captain Obvious here. However, what we need to think about is, does anybody in your database have a family foundation that you could apply to? How would you find that out? Use donorsearch.com. And so DonorSearch allows you to see who in your database knows other people, who your board members know, and basically get a sense of who has access to the kinds of resources that could really make a significant gift for your organization. It's not free and it's not cheap, but the DonorSearch really, really works. So I'm going to put that in the chat pane. If you want to know more about that, let me know. We can also talk about that on our call. So technology that this donor wanted them to use included Fundly, Allscripts, UPS RoadNet, and PCCI. Why would Meals on Wheels need these things? Because what Fundly does is it revamps their volunteer management system with an app to let staff and hospital know immediately if there's an issue with a client. Then it uses Allscripts linked back to elder care and hospice care to keep track of what's happening. And so quite often, Meals on Wheels finds people who have fallen, who have had a stroke, and they are lifesavers. And so this helps people get to the hospital immediately, and also helps the person who comes take notes for first responders and doctors and nurses to allow them to understand this person's state immediately. It just cuts down the barriers, it cuts down the friction between wraparound care for this person. They also are using PCCI to connect hospitals to us with real-time referrals. There's no need to visit the person in the hospital, so they can save money and time on their meals as well. And finally, they have UPS RoadNet, which helps them deliver meals in a concentrated area using 1/2 volunteers and 1/2 paid drivers. So that's something to think about as well. When you are trying to deliver your programs and services, how can you do it more efficiently? This is what they're using. Why is this an earned income stream? Because this donor insists that Dallas County make this replicable and scalable and get a referral fee for when Fundly sells the software to other Meals on Wheels programs so they can be more sustainable. That's why this is an earned income stream. So that's pretty radical and incredible, and I don't think I've heard of any other nonprofit doing something like this, and I'm really, really excited to share this with you because I got to interview these people. But what if you don't think technology is the answer? That's okay. There's other things, but if you do, good proposal to leadership donor is a key piece, good application to the donor's foundation, good reporting to the donor and foundation about the progress, and a good board member who has the knowledge of tech who is a champion of the campaign. So your lessons from this, if you do want to try something like this, is to hire a major gifts fundraising person, try to get a tech-savvy board member, look at your current database for the longest term, most loyal supporters, and is there a way to make earned income by using technology or partnering? Now, if you're not interested in technology, I have another idea for you. What if you could be a one-stop for everything related to your cause? So that means you could try something like Savannah case Meals on Wheels is doing. So they went from under $1 million budget to a $9.5 million budget in 15 years. And now they're doing their first capital campaign in 57 years. So they grow slowly. You don't want to grow fast. It's not sustainable. According to Patty Lyons, she said the more you can do, the cheaper your unit cost is, and the further your grants go. If you can get the price cheaper, you can serve more with the same amount of money. So your lessons are, do not depend on government funding. We know that when the government shuts down, suddenly there's no more money. We do a lot more than just meals. They want to emphasize. We want to be the place people turn to for answers, a care manager, etc. They want to be a one-stop. And then they want to rebrand for the health aspect, not just convenience. These meals are medicine. Be the place of first choice, not the place of last resort. They want to give people a choice. And so they want to do just so much more than a TV dinner. They want to do not just more than if you're diabetic or not, but hey, maybe you want to try the paleo or the keto model. Maybe you can get off some of your medications. Maybe you can stop being addicted to sugar and carbs, for example. So there's lots of different things that are mindset innovations that can be really powerful. So here's another example of a one-stop. This is a Livestrong Foundation. And so they realize that when people find them, they have questions about cancer specifically. Maybe they have cancer, maybe they know someone with cancer. Either way, they started to offer peer support on the phone with people who have cancer, talking to other people who have cancer. And they also have just a place where you can start to figure out what to do because you're scared. They have their programs, their mission, you can shop, you can donate, and they have cancer support. And so they also have a little magazine about it. And generally, because they become a one-stop, they become the trusted source for answers. So think about, could we do better at connecting people with resources as soon as they get on our page? What are the top questions somebody has as soon as they reach our website? So you can rebrand as the first place that people go. Maybe thinking about how can we continuously improve? How do we do it bigger and better? And who else needs what we have? Meals on Wheels Dallas County Meals on Wheels Savannah decided to make their kitchen in use 24 hours a day. So they want to cater homeless shelters, mental health daily rehab facilities, and United Way and businesses in town. So they did that, and they were able to order a lot more bulk food, get their costs down, and create an earned income stream. So you can ask yourself, who else is providing the services we offer, and maybe we can do it better. So now my next poll question for you, you already had the whole thing, is I want to know, have you ever made a SWOT? So just say yes or no. If you don't know what a SWOT is, that's okay. We're going to teach you in just a second. All right, we are going to close the poll and share the results. So it looks like 63% of us have made a SWOT and 38% have not. So for those of us who have, if we were in person right now, I would say, wonderful. How about you tell the class what a SWOT is, but since we're not in person, I'm going to have to tell you, which is fine. But for those of you who said no, you're about to have a treat. For those of you who said yes, that you'll still be able to learn something from the next several slides, because what I'd like you to do right now on your piece of paper in front of you is put a line down the middle of it, a fresh piece of paper, and then put a line across from it, so you make like a giant T with the entire piece of paper. Put an S in the left corner, a W in the right corner, an O in the left bottom corner, and a T in the lower right corner. And you're gonna know what we're about to do. So, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's what the S stands for, the W, the O, and the T. I've become enamored of questions. More and more as I get older, I think questions are the key to existence. I think they're the key to good leadership, and I think that they're the key to building relationships with your donors. So the better good questions you can ask yourself, ask people around you, the better you'll be able to lead your nonprofit. And that's what I'm hoping to help you do today. So your strengths. What do we do better or differently than other comparable programs? Furthermore, what do we do that is distinctive? Take a second to think about that. If you already know your strengths, fantastic, we're gonna move on to weaknesses. Ask yourself, are we slow, sloppy, or leaving gaps in donor care or client care? We might be. That's what Meals on Wheels ask themselves. Can we partner better with other local agencies? I think the answer to that is usually yes. Does our fundraising team understand how to promote our programs and services with a budget? If you don't have a budget for fundraising, that's a big problem. What are your external opportunities? What's your O? Are there growth opportunities for us in other places or markets? Are there opportunities to partner or collaborate with other agencies for fundraising? What's a threat? Ask yourself, have other nonprofits launched services or programs or marketing that is attractive to our donors? Answer, probably. Are there global or macroeconomic forces at work that could compromise our growth or drive up our costs? Well, the answer to that is definitely yes, because we're about to go into a downturn. There's been a real estate slowdown on both the East and the West coasts, and it's hitting home everywhere. There's also a slowdown in the global markets. And we've already talked about the macroeconomic factors of the crowdfunding campaigns and for-profits taking our grants. So that's a huge problem. So if this is the case, then our opportunity is to look more deeply at our current donor file and ask how can we engage people or re-engage them, or who do our people know? So again, I think that donor search would be a wonderful way for you to find that out. So cut out what's not working. If I'm going to ask you to do new things and try new things, I'm going to ask you to also cut out things that don't work as well. So some of us said that you're having decreased event income. If that's the case, stop doing that event. What do you have lower diminishing returns for? Just take a moment and reflect. Things that are weaknesses. Is it Giving Tuesday? Is it our year-end appeal? Is it our spring appeal? Is it our fundraising event? Is it our crowdfunding? Is it telemarketing, right? Grants, that's like AKA phone banking, right? Or TV or newspaper advertising. Whatever it is, if you have decreasing return, just stop doing it. It's okay to stop. It's okay to say this isn't working anymore. We're going to try something new and different this year. We're going to experiment. We're going to have fun. If you say, gosh, nobody in my organization likes to experiment or have fun, well, then I have good news for you. We are going to have fun trying new things today. I'm going to teach you how to help people have fun with that. So think about what you need. What do you need money for? What's a new program you could try? Could you become a one-stop for those you serve or your donors? How could you leverage a current program and make it more enticing to volunteers or donors? So here's an example. With a nonprofit that I work for in LA right now, they help homeless people find jobs, but they also have a volunteer opportunity that's super simple and easy. People can just come out, feed the homeless, and leave on a Sunday. They can come with their family, they can come with their work colleagues, they can come by themselves. And they have a quick, easy way to start caring about the homeless and doing something about the homeless problem, and incidentally become monthly givers for this organization. And so every week they have an event in terms of just doing a feeding. It's their programs, and they ask people to become more involved there. And the people who actually are giving out the food are their volunteers. So everybody else just coordinates that whole thing to happen, and they do it in a parking lot, and it works wonderfully. So they made this very enticing and a very low barrier to entry to people, even though they do charge to volunteer. They charge $25 a person. And it really, really works. They get people in who are interested in giving and learning more. And they have over 500 monthly donors now. And that's $40,000 to $50,000 a month that they're getting of unrestricted income. So if you think you can't charge to volunteer, you're wrong. If you think your volunteer program can't make you significant money, you're also wrong. If you think that there's nothing innovative you can do with volunteering, you are so wrong. So think about how can we make a very low barrier to entry and have people come and have fun with us and then ask them to give right there. So look at your market. What makes you unique? Who are similar nonprofits in town to you? Who's similar in your region, or who's similar nationally? So this is not just a SWOT. This is not just a marketing strategy. It's not just a cost-cutting strategy. It doesn't mean you have to add new programs, but I would say definitely look at all of these factors. Look at how other nonprofits treat their donors, how often they communicate, their volunteer offerings, how they advertise, the degree of automation they have in donor communications, how much appreciation they do for volunteers and donors. What are their programs? How beautiful is their design? Do they have a monthly giving program or a major donor program? So look at that. If you don't know, just look at the nonprofit that you think is closest to you in terms of mission and the value they deliver to the community. Just look at one of them. I would encourage you to look at least three because you probably got some overlap in donors, but at least look at one and say, okay, how are we different from them? How are we better? How are we worse? And mark it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being terrible, 5 being incredible. So how do they treat their donors? Maybe they treat their donors really well. If you may give them a donation, maybe they're constantly following up with you and asking you if you want to do more. Look at how often they communicate. Again, that's tied to that. Do they have really low barrier to entry volunteer offerings? That's how you can assess the quality. Look at how they advertise. Maybe they don't. The degree of automation they have in donor communications. That's something you can find out just by giving a $25 donation to them. How much appreciation do they do for volunteers and donors? Do they have that on their website? Hey, we have a volunteer appreciation day, right? Do they have an attractive monthly giving program, a major donor program? And then, how do we compare? These are all the same questions now applied to you. So here's some questions that we're having right now. Gary said weakness can also be a lack of volunteer champions. That's true. I'm not sure if I understand your question, Gary. You said unrestricted funds. Where is the mission promoted? So if you have unrestricted funds, you can do what you want, but the mission is throughout your organization. I'm not sure if that really answers your question. That's kind of a weird question. So how do we compare? Ask yourself, can we make a better offering for volunteers, for monthly giving, for major gifts, for earned income, for events, for programs, or something else? So a lot of us here know about Red Nose Day. It's a charity event that helps people laugh, have fun, and gives to charity. So they have all these cupcakes with little cherries on them that look like red noses. They have people wearing red noses at work. They have a red nose on Shakespeare on her shirt. And they have Red Nose Day all over England, for example. So imagine if you could make it a cultural event like that people are like having fun. There's like an iconic image of the red nose, and they're doing something for you. So it doesn't have to be a bike ride. It could just be laughter. And it doesn't have to be a golfing event. It could be a night with a drag queen or something like that. So there's lots of things that you could do that would be different than what other nonprofits are doing. You don't have to keep doing the same old rubber chicken dinners. You can do something unique and fun and interesting for your donors rather than, now we're going to sit here and clap for somebody that we don't really care what they said. So if you want to create new systems, if you want to start innovating, try looking at the book Blue Ocean Strategy. Also check out Fundraising the Smart Way by Ellen Bristol. It's an excellent book. Try Win-Win for the Greater Good by Bruce Birch. Also try Failing Forward by John Maxwell. Maybe you can do a book club where everybody in your office could read a business book once a month and then discuss it. So it'll help you streamline your delivery system for donors and for programs, help you do brainstorming sessions. They can systematically find new customers for what you sell, even if what you sell is social change. Maureen, that's a good question. I'm going to answer that at the end. Thank you for sharing that. So I encourage you to create fundraising systems. What you do is going to be quite difficult to do unless you create a system. So ask yourself, what is our donor cultivation cycle? What is your subscriber cultivation cycle? What is your major donor cultivation cycle? What are your goals, deadlines around these? Who's responsible for these? And how can you eliminate barriers? So what do I mean when I say cultivation cycle? I mean, where do people first find you? Then what happens to engage them with you? Then how do you follow up with that person? Then how do you gauge their interest and see what level they want to be involved with? Then how do you lead them down the road to becoming a monthly giver, major donor? And then finally, how do you lead them down the road to be giving you the most thoughtful gift, the planned gift, or a gift through their will? So that's something to think about. If you don't have that mapped out, I can guarantee you're losing donors, you're leaving money on the table, and you're losing relationships you should definitely have for your cause. Now, if you've never done this before, if you feel like, oh gosh, we've been wasting so much time, it's okay. That's why we're here. We want to see where we could do better and just change one little thing per week, just one thing. Subscriber cultivation cycle is a little bit easier because it's just your newsletter. So it could be as simple as, do we give them good follow-up emails when they first sign up? And then do we consistently communicate every month afterwards with, here's our events coming up, here's ways to get involved with us, here's volunteer opportunities, here's our board application, here's ways for us to feel like, you know, we're building a relationship with you and hopefully you feel the same way about us. If you don't have a major donor cultivation cycle, this nonprofit in LA already has that. It's like, come out to volunteer, become a monthly donor. We only have one level and that's $98. So that's $1,000 a year. So boom, they get major donors every single Sunday. You can get this too. What are your goals and deadlines around these? So you can say, great, I want to make a system, but then if you don't have a goal or a deadline around it, it's not going to happen. What are the top 100 people that always open your emails? Could you get coffee with them this week or next week, right? Because it's Friday. So I will confess to you, I am a complete hypocrite. I have a list of 100 people on my email list I'm supposed to be reaching out to. For the last 2 or 3 weeks, I haven't done that. And I am ashamed of myself. I am so ashamed of myself. And so I want to open up and be vulnerable with you and tell you that it's okay if you're afraid to do this. It's okay if you're not making time for it, but now you need to do it. So one action you can take right now without doing anything else from this webinar is simply look at who are the people that are always opening your emails in your email list, the highest score in MailChimp, for example, and then call them, email them, talk with them, find a way to meet with them in the next 2 weeks. And just say, hey, what led you to our cause? Ask them open-ended questions. What do you think we do well? What do you think we could do better? And finally, how can we do better for you? If you're the only one in charge of this, it's okay. Just take a good 2 weeks and meet with people. It's the end of Q1. It's not too late. Now is the time to connect with your most loyal supporters and volunteers and donors and say, we want to deepen this relationship with you because you are all that we have, and we are excited that you are here. Eliminate barriers by being available. Get right back to people on the phone. Get right back to them through email. And follow up consistently. You can use different websites to have a way to track who you need to follow up with. I am currently paying for a system that is useful to me, but you may already have this built into your donor database. One way to think about your major donor cultivation cycle, I'll give you 5 tips right now for you to measure major donor cultivation cycle. First, do we like them? That could mean, have they already given? Do they give more than once a month in 1 year? Have they volunteered with us? Have they shown that they want to deepen their relationship? 2, do they like us? And then have they shown up when they said they were going to show up? Have they answered our calls? Have they come to the open houses that we've had, then we know that's true. That's prospecting and qualifying. Then 3, have we asked for the gift? Then 4, have they negotiated? Then 5, have they actually given the gift? So if you track your major donor cultivation cycle by those 5 simple steps, you will be able to move yourself much further along if you just say, oh, we wrote them a note, now we're done. That's not how it works. That's not how moves management really should work. Could I send the outline of the cultivation cycle? Sarah, I can do you one better, actually. Come to my next webinar with Ellen Bristol on March 19th. And if you can go to my website, you can find out and sign up for that if you go to wildwomanfundraising.com/events. So I'm going to send that to everybody right now. So in that webinar, we're going to look at your major donor cultivation cycle and donor cultivation cycles in general. That's a free webinar. You're very welcome to come to that. Marilyn, the system that I'm using is, you can use a spreadsheet if you want to, but what I like is that the system has like what's called a rotting feature, which is it'll turn it yellow, then orange, then red if you haven't followed up with people. And so maybe I'll share that with you later on in an email if you want to email me or set up a call. So I'd love to share with you all of my systems. So if you go to bit.ly/MT free30, we'll chat about that. So if you do want to take it to the next level, you can apply for a call with me and we can chat about how to improve your fundraising and systems. Here are some common misunderstandings about next level fundraising. The myth is that it's all about being donor-centric. Nope, it's about creating new donors out of non-donors, because new earned income streams become new donors. So when you're looking at who's currently in your database, you have to think who is not giving, why are they not giving, and how could you offer something of unique value to tap into that group? So maybe there's people all around you and you're wondering, what could we do to be more engaging with them? Is there something they're not getting out of their current volunteer experiences or event experiences that we could offer? So I walked into a Wells Fargo bank a couple of years ago now, and I just chatted with a teller there, and I said, hey, how do you like to get involved with nonprofits? And he said, oh, I love doing color runs. That's something that really would speak to me, and I would make sure that we were involved in that. And so I said, thank you, good to know. That's something that any one of us here can do. We can walk into a bank and ask, how do you like to get involved with nonprofits? To absolutely anyone there, and they will probably have an answer for us. And if they do, we can make a little tally, and then when we go back to them and say, hey, we'd love to have you as a sponsor, plus we're having this really fun event, it's a color run, you should come, then they're going to say yes much more readily because we've thought about what they want to do as a volunteer, and then we've made it easy for them to do it because we came back and said face to face, would you do this? So also, a lot of people don't know this, but you can get over $15 an hour per person per hour for many, many different corporations because that helps them actually retain their employees. So everybody from Kohl's to Old Navy to The Gap to Starbucks will give you over $15 an hour per person per hour. So you could have them help you at your event, and that's a whole other earned income stream for you. Plus, you get new volunteers out of it, and you get people more engaged with your work. So that's how we got $5,000 at an event that I ran for a domestic violence agency, our gala event. And it was as much as a sponsorship, and we had a lot of people to help us with our event. They did everything from checking people in to running our little raffles to holding up the raffle items and sending them through the crowd, like we had an opal necklace, for example. So there's lots of things you could do. So you don't have to make new programs. Think about instead, maybe you could have new volunteer opportunities, you could have new packaging for what you do, new ways to get involved, new taglines, or reframe what you're doing in other ways. So the Global Autism Project had an existing edutourism program, but it was small, badly marketed, and poorly funded. So they created an autism therapist test program, marketed it to Facebook, and used that pool to draw more to their edutourism program, expand it, and by the way, help a lot more people with autism throughout the world. So now they're in 10 different countries. I've been a monthly donor to them, and I just love the work that they're doing. The software they're using to do this is called Entreport. So they use this for their monthly giving program and their e-newsletter software and their landing pages for this. So their edutourism programs are highly successful, and now they're not even doing Facebook ads anymore. They're simply partnering with universities and getting people directly from universities in their programs. So you don't have to have new technologies. Your database might already do all of this stuff. But if you do want to try Entreport, you could find new donor onboarding strategies that way, new subscriber boarding emails, you know, automating reminder emails for monthly giver credit cards bounce. They do that. And then they also do this software also does postcards, believe it or not, and SMS messages. You don't have to be the first mover in a space. In fact, competitors just prove the market. So you can offer something valuable and different. So you don't have to be the first one who thought of a thrift store. You don't have to be the first one who thought of, you know, doing a gala event with a I don't know, a bungee jumping twist, let's say, you know, something crazy like that. And next level fundraising strategy and differentiation strategy is not synonymous. You know, you could raise and create income, but you could also look at what you can eliminate and reduce to drive down costs. So it's not just about innovation, it's about value innovation for donors, volunteers, and stakeholders. And maybe there's a way to use volunteers that will help you serve your cause more effectively. Is there a way to satisfy more stakeholders by providing less effort? So who else is active in our space? You know, ask your intern to research this locally, regionally, nationally, or internationally. How do we offer something different, or what can we learn from people who are doing this even better? So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to ask, what can we raise, create, reduce, or eliminate? So you can apply for a call with me and let's chat about what you're working on if you get a bit.ly MT free 30. What can you eliminate and reduce? So for example, how can we reduce fundraiser turnover? Or how can we eliminate the time it takes to get a response and a thank you from a donation? It should be instantaneous. How can we create more donor value for a lower cost? So if you want to brainstorm with me about that, as you can tell, I love brainstorming. So let's chat about what you're working on. You can apply for a call with me on bit.ly MT free 30. Love to chat with you. Here's your last poll question. What do you want to try? When you want to try new things, what do people say? And I know this is a topic that might be a little touchy, but maybe they tell you things like, we have no money, we have no time, that will never work. Or do they say, oh yeah, go for it? So please feel free to put your answer in the chat. I'm sorry, in the poll question. I would love to hear how, when you want to try something new, how that's taken in your organization. Five more seconds for this poll. We only have 50% of us voting. Come on, you guys, don't fall asleep on me here. I know it's Friday afternoon. Come on, you can do this. You can do it. Last chance to vote in our poll. Are you gonna do it? Or are you going to not do it? All right, we are gonna close the poll and share the results here. So 28% of us said we have no money. 26% said we have no time. 23% said that will never work, and 23% said, oh yeah, go for it. Right, so for the vast majority of us, we are seeing that people tell us they have no money, no time, and it will never work. And then some people say, yeah, go for it. I think that's wonderful. It's about an even split, right? So thank you so much for sharing with me what people say. And then Kate said, board is supportive as long as it doesn't mean more work for them, right? Exactly. So if people are constantly naysaying you and telling you no, 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 because they don't want to do more work or they think it's going to be more work, this is how you can overcome that. I'm going to teach you how to do that right now. So when we try to create change, there are barriers which you anticipate. Maybe there's cognitive barriers. Maybe there's political barriers, staff motivation, or resource barriers. So what's our strategy to overcome this? Cognitive barriers might be, but we've always done things this way. Or maybe we have limited time and resources. That's the resource hurdle. What could we do to automate to free up staff time? What are things we could stop doing? Political hurdle, opposition from the board. Is this not where we want to take this nonprofit? Or do we have a motivational hurdle, unmotivated staff? Making a better monthly giving program is hard. Can't we just get more grants? So how do you overcome all of these? I encourage you to use the 6 Thinking Hats by Edward de Bono. What are the 6 thinking hats? Well, this is an excuse to buy a lot of fun hats at Goodwill, okay? But it's not just that. The black hat is a judgmental hat, warning of difficulties. The yellow hat is the optimistic hat, talking about the value and the benefits. The white hat calls for information, it's emotionally neutral. The red hat articulates emotions, feelings, and hunches. The green hat encourages creative thinking and focuses on new ideas. And the blue hat is the process-based thinking worn by the facilitator. So everybody spends 1 to 5 minutes per hat, and then it allows you to see what's the hat we spend most time in habitually. I don't know about you, but I often am wearing the yellow hat. What are the benefits of this idea? The white hat asks, what data do we have to support this idea? What info do we need to move forward? Or the black hat, what are the weaknesses of this idea? And everyone just pigpile in, oh, it's a terrible idea. Oh my God. Okay, everybody gets to have all of their doubts on the table. And then everyone wears the green hat. How can we improve this idea? How can we make it more practical? How can we package it? Finally, everyone wears the red hat. You know, what are our emotions around this? We can start this hat if it's a controversial issue, just to get everyone's feelings out in the open. If you have to close a program, that could be a very emotional issue. Then everyone wears the blue hat. What are the next steps? So this can help you understand how to make change in your organization without becoming an outcast in trying to do too many new things at once or trying to stop old things that people are very emotionally attached to. So if you want to help figuring out how to take it to the next level, I have tons of e-courses to help you do that. Everything from sponsorship courses to finding new donors to keeping your donors, fundraising planning and appeal letters and more. So if you want to learn more, go to wildwomanfundraising.com/shop. But right now I want to leave plenty of time for questions. If you do want to apply for a call with me, I would love to help you take your nonprofit to the next level. Let me know what you're working on. So if you go to bit.ly/mt-free30, I would love to chat with you. So thank you. Now we're going to take questions. I want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions here. And so I'm going to go back up to Maureen's question. She said, we struggle with volunteers because oftentimes the types of volunteers that want to come out are not reflective or even from the community. What are some suggestions you have for balancing our volunteer network and ensuring that the community itself doesn't feel used by volunteer feel-gooders? That's a really good question, Maureen. Sometimes communities don't necessarily have a culture of volunteering, and so you're kind of at the mercy of who does feel like volunteering with you. So here's some things I would try, Maureen. I would try to have people who are from the community in your volunteer recruitment materials. Have the kind of person you want to recruit in your volunteer materials, whether it's a brochure, a poster, a banner. If you're like, go somewhere where you feel like people would from the community work and be hanging out and ask, hey, would you ever like want to volunteer for us? Some people are going to say, no, I don't want to do free work. And that is fair enough. But if you frame it in a way that makes sense to them, this could be a good networking opportunity for you. That might be better. So if the community feels used by volunteer feel-gooders, you might want to have a volunteer training where if people who are volunteer feel-gooders are making problematic comments to your community that, you know, really don't make them feel good, they need to understand the systems of oppression that are in place in this country and help them not say something dumb that's going to make the people that they're helping hate them, right? Or just feel very uncomfortable or angry. So, Maureen, I hope that was helpful. It is a struggle to deal with volunteers with the best of intentions and also people in the community who may not necessarily appreciate their do-gooding attitude. But there are ways around cluelessness on the part of feel-gooders. When we were in the domestic violence shelter that I worked at, we had a 40-hour volunteer training so that everybody understood the dynamics of what was going on, why doesn't she just leave, et cetera, et cetera. Like nobody was going to say something problematic to a woman coming out of an abusive situation after that training, at least hopefully not. KL said, will this webinar be available via link when you complete today? I think Randy will have the answer to that, but I think the answer to that is yes. Rita said, can't see info on screens or what I am typing. Will you be sending the recording? Rita, yes. I believe Randy will be sending the recording to everybody here today. And are there any more questions right now? We have some more time. I want to leave plenty of time for you to answer questions, ask and answer questions. We have about 9 more minutes here. Kevin said, if my 501c3 is geared towards reintegrating homeless vets back into society through construction training, can I start an LLC to ensure the training and employment piece is there? So when our veterans graduate from the 501c3 program, they've got a way to become employed. Is this viable? Kevin, absolutely it is. And on top of that, you should definitely be talking to different government agencies because they will have construction sub-programs to help these veterans also not just work in other people's construction companies, but start their own companies too. And so we have this here in Portland, Oregon, where I live, and there's government, veteran sort of stipulations where they call it COVID certification, where if you are a veteran or if you're a minority-owned or woman-owned business, they have money set aside just to work with you, and so your veterans can really do this. So anyway, hope that helped and answered your question. Gary said we had a major issue with the IRS for UBIT and had an IRS audit, which resulted in paying a $272 tax to the IRS for an ad we placed in a newsletter and did not charge tax on that ad. Very frustrating. Gary, it sounds like you've got a very strict state sort of registration policy for nonprofits. Here in Oregon, we don't have that. That seems very, very strange to me. But now you have to know that like whatever you do, you have to charge tax on it. Anybody else have any other questions here? Yes, Chloe. Excellent. What's the next question? Can we sell items for a donation? Oh, thank you, Gary. Chloe, you can sell things. And so one of the ways you can do that with earned income is specifically you can use a cafe press store and you can just put your logo on it. And so you don't even have to like worry about getting things printed or storing them. Cafe Press will do all of it for you. You could also do this with other t-shirt companies online. And they can also put it on everything from mouse pads to shower curtains to whatever you want. So you can totally do that. But you should definitely check the state laws where you are, because sometimes, as Gary found, when you sell something, if you don't charge tax on it, that can be a problem. And also if it becomes the majority of your income, that can threaten your nonprofit status. So you want to see what the laws are in your state for that. Was that helpful? You're welcome. You're welcome. KL said, do you know of a site or resource that streamlines grants so I can find them easier? I have a creative arts program. What's a good way to find amazing board members? Okay, 2 questions, really good questions. So first, KL, Foundation Center Directory is excellent, and you should have it at your central library. So check out Foundation Center Directory and Central Library, and they have the Platinum Edition for you, and they will teach you how to search for grants there. The creative arts program, if you look up who is like you, do that market research that we talked about before, and then see who gave to them, then you'll have a good sense of who could give to you. So that's a way to do that, and just look them up in the Foundation Center Directory. You should also definitely make sure that those grants, are taking applications, things like that. What's a good way to find amazing board members? KL, I'm going to tell you that the best way I've found is to do speaking engagements. It's true, and it's really worked for a variety of people that I know, executive directors and founders, as well as outreach coordinators and humble fundraisers like me. So going out to everything from the Rotary to Chambers of Commerce meetings to farmers markets to speak to community radio to all of these, a variety of places will help you find amazing board members. You just have to be able and willing, when you're doing your tabling, to bring your board application with you and say, we're looking for new board members. You could also go to churches, synagogues, mosques, whatever you want. You're welcome. Thank you so much for staying on. If there are no other questions, we could end 5 minutes early, but I would love it if you contacted me. I would love to hear from you.
Well, while we're waiting for any last and final questions, thanks a lot, Mazarine, for your time today. I always appreciate when our friends stop by and pass along information to us all. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Randy. Thanks for having me. Chloe said, how should board members help fundraising? Chloe, there's a book about that, and it's called Fired Up Fundraising by Gail Perry, and I will put that in the chat right now. Okay, I misspelled fundraising, but I think you can get it. Everybody, I sent that to you right now. Okay, do you have
And
suggestions
for those of
funding?
you,
Okay, go on, I'm sorry.
and for those of you that are wondering, yes, we are recording this, so you will have access to it.
Okay, excellent. So Krista said, do you have suggestions for fundraising while tax exempt status is pending? We have large donors waiting until their gifts are deductible. Krista, you can get that write-off up to 18 months before you get your tax exempt status. You can start fundraising now and say, we will get our status. So you can, if your donors aren't comfortable with that, though, you can also be incubated by other larger nonprofit. Any more questions? Check out a session with me. So thank you so much for having me, Randy. Thank you for this webinar, everybody. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. Everyone, you go out and have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you.
All righty, thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.